M5D UFO Files. Unraveling the UFO Files. Revelations that change everything.
You are now listening to M5D UFO Files, Unraveling the Secrets of Aerial Phenomena. I'm Agent Fox Mulder, and with me is Dr. Evelyn Reed. Evelyn, some stories, they're just so huge they feel impossible. But what if all it takes is pulling on one single, very famous thread, and suddenly this whole hidden history starts to unravel right in front of you? Well, today, that thread is the assassination of JFK. What if it wasn't the end of a story, but the beginning? A doorway into a world of secret programs, psychic spies, and reality hidden deep, deep beneath our oceans.
That's right, Fox. And in this explainer, we're going to follow that exact thread through 5 key areas, all based on the source material. First, we'll look at the man at the center of it all, Lee Harvey Oswald. Then, we dive into the shocking motive the sources claim was the real reason for the assassination. From there, we'll uncover some unbelievable tools used to protect these secrets. We're talking psychic spies and a hidden underwater world. And finally, we're going to connect all the dots to reveal one of the most incredible conspiracy narratives ever put together.
Exactly. So let's jump right in with the man the history books call the villain, Lee Harvey Oswald. You know the story, the lone gunman, the disgruntled Marxist, but the sources we're looking at, they paint a completely different picture. Not of a man who knew too much, but of a man who knew way, way too little about the game he was playing.
And you have to remember, those were his own words, Fox, right after his arrest. It was a desperate claim, that he was just a scapegoat. And yeah, the history books kind of just brushed it aside, but it really is the central question, isn't it? What if he was telling the 100% absolute truth? What if he was exactly what he said he was, a patsy?
Okay, so this is where the official story just gets blown out of the water. According to these sources, Oswald wasn't a lone nut, not even close. He was an operative trained by the Office of Naval Intelligence. He was part of this mission called Operation Redskin, where his whole job was to create this fake persona as a pro-Cuba Marxist to get inside these activist groups. But here's the real kicker. The plan was never to kill the president. His mission was to fire one single bungled shot, an obvious miss, that could be blamed on Castro to give the US an excuse to invade Cuba.
And that just changes everything. If Oswald was just a pawn and his role was designed to fail, that means another team had to be in place to succeed, which of course begs the question, who were they? And why go to all that trouble? The motive had to be bigger than Cuba. It had to be absolutely monumental.
And that's what brings us to the motive. Because the sources allege the real reason for all this wasn't the Cold War, it wasn't the mafia, it wasn't any of the usual suspects you hear about. It was about a secret Kennedy was on the verge of sharing with the world. A secret so big that powerful people considered revealing it to be an act of treason.
Okay, so let's just walk through Kennedy's final year. The sources say the Cuban Missile Crisis absolutely terrified him. They came minutes from total nuclear annihilation. So he opens the secret back channel to Khrushchev, and through these private letters, they come up with this radical plan: get rid of all nuclear weapons, period. Then on June 5th, 1963, Kennedy makes a move that apparently sealed his fate. He demanded the CIA give him everything they had on UFOs. And when former CIA Director Allen Dulles found out, he allegedly gave the green light for the assassination.
So you're probably asking, why the UFO files? What's the connection? Well, according to this narrative, Kennedy was going to give that information to Khrushchev as the ultimate sign of trust, to prove he was serious about ending the Cold War for good. But to this powerful China lobby, these powerful interests represented by Dulles, who needed the nuclear threat to stay in power, this wasn't about peace. This was giving away the nation's biggest, most guarded secret. To them, it was treason.
A plot to kill a president just to protect the UFO secret. Honestly, it sounds like something straight out of Hollywood. But think about it. If a group really had the power to do that, what other secrets were they hiding? What kind of unbelievable covert tools did they have to pull it off and keep it quiet for all these years?
And this, Evelyn, is where the story takes a hard right turn into the truly paranormal. Because to protect these secrets, the intelligence community wasn't just using guns and spies. No, the sources claim they were weaponizing the human mind itself.
And that might sound unbelievable, but you have to understand,
The core of this was a very real technique called remote viewing. This isn't just theory. Programs like Stargate, run by the CIA and the DIA, are a declassified, documented part of history. It's a process where trained people could supposedly see people, places, and information thousands of miles away using nothing but their own consciousness.
And some of these guys were just off the charts gifted. The sources point to a man named Pat Price. I mean, listen to this. It's claimed he could remote view a top-secret CIA facility and literally read files inside a locked cabinet. He could pinpoint the exact location of a Russian nuclear sub in real time, and get this, he also detected a massive UFO hovering over and tracking that same sub. The level of power we're talking about here is just staggering.
And these secrets weren't just hidden away in people's minds or in filing cabinets, Fox. They were hidden from sight, in a place very few people would ever think to look. Deep, deep in the ocean. The sources claim there's a place just like Area 51, but it's completely underwater.
Oh yeah, check out the Autech facility down in the Bahamas. Officially, it's a top-secret Navy base for testing subs and other gear. But the claims in the source material, well, they're a little more out there. They call it the Navy's Area 51 in the ocean, a major hub for UFO activity and supposedly the location of enormous underwater bases that were not built by us.
And the whistleblower testimony from this place, it paints a wild picture. One Army insider talks about being taken on a diplomatic mission deep into an area called the Tongue of the Ocean. He said the sub wasn't American, but some advanced craft crewed by these tall, Nordic-looking beings. And it took them to a huge underwater city under a giant dome. He said it looked like Dubai, with a massive white pyramid right in the center. What's really compelling, though, is the potential corroboration. Decades later, a totally separate witness comes forward with a drawing he made as a kid back in 1979, and it shows 3 underwater domes in that exact same spot.
Okay, so let's just pause for a second here. We've got a plot to kill a president. We've got psychic spies who can track UFOs. And we've got massive, non-human cities hidden under the sea. I mean, how on earth does all of this connect? How is this possibly part of the same story?
Well, that's the final piece of the puzzle, isn't it? Because according to the sources we're looking at, these aren't separate conspiracies at all. They're all just interconnected threads in one single, colossal tapestry of secrecy.
All right, so let's just connect the dots here, point by point. 1, the motive. JFK goes for nuclear disarmament and demands the UFO files to seal the deal. 2, the treason. This powerful shadow group sees it as a betrayal and green lights an assassination. 3, the patsy. A low-level operative, Lee Harvey Oswald, is put in place to take the fall. And 4, the ultimate secret. The assassination wasn't just about JFK. It was about protecting a massive, decades-long cover-up of reality-shattering truths. That psychic powers are real, non-human technology is here, and we are not alone on this planet or even in its oceans.
So when you really boil it all down, what are we left with? This story isn't actually about one man's death. The sources allege it's about a shadow war, fought completely in secret, to control information so powerful it could literally redefine what it means to be human. A war to keep all of us in the dark.
It's just an absolutely staggering narrative. It suggests that there's this entire hidden history running just beneath the surface of the one we all know. And it really makes you wonder, right? If they could hide something this big, what else don't we know? What other truths are still out there just waiting for someone to pull the right thread?
Look, the narrative we've explored today is drawn from some truly extraordinary claims. And here at M5D UFO Files, our motto is simple. The truth is out there, and we seek it. This is what we do. We explore the mysteries of the universe.
So if this got your mind racing, you know what to do. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to join our community of truth seekers. And please, rate and review us. It really helps other seekers find our content. After all, the most important secrets are the ones still waiting to be discovered. This is M5D UFO Files, real-life mysteries discussed by those who dare to question.
You are now listening to M5D UFO Files, unraveling the secrets of aerial phenomena. Subscribe now and dive deep into the unexplained with M5D UFO Files. Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something massive. We're not just looking at isolated incidents, We're connecting the dots.
That's right. We've gathered sources that seem to link, well, 3 enormous conspiracies. Things that sound separate, but maybe aren't.
Exactly. We're talking advanced non-human bases, right off our shores. Then there's government psychic programs, real mind-bending stuff.
And maybe the biggest one. The real reason behind the JFK assassination. Something tied to nuclear weapons and, believe it or not, UFOs.
It sounds wild, I know. But the sources suggest a hidden architecture, a kind of coordinated effort behind it all.
Our mission here, for you listening, is to try and piece that together, to show how these threads, technology, intelligence, history, secrets might actually weave into one single narrative. It's about control.
Control of tech, history, and even how we think.
Precisely. Control over advanced energy, over intelligence gathering, and maybe even over political outcomes at the highest level.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with something happening right now, because this isn't just ancient history.
Not at all.
So first off, it's one thing for shows like ours to talk about this stuff, but it's another thing entirely when government officials start confirming parts of it.
You're talking about Congressman Tim Burchett.
Yeah, I mean, he's a sitting congressman,
No.
and he's openly discussing what he calls alien craft or some sort of advanced craft, not just flying around, but coming from underwater.
And he's specific, isn't he? He mentioned numbers.
He did. He talked about at least 5 to 6 underwater locations where these things are operating from.
Yeah.
That's incredibly specific for a government official.
It really is. And the way he phrases it implies these aren't just quick visits. He refers to them as entities that are here on this earth.
Meaning residents, like they've been here?
That's the implication. Here for who knows how long, using technologies like anti-gravity, electromagnetism, stuff way beyond what we typically talk about. They're embedded, not just passing through.
Okay, so if they're embedded where? Well, one major hotspot seems to be right next door to a top-secret U.S. Navy facility.
Ah, the Navy's own underwater Area 51, so to speak.
Exactly. We're talking about ODTEC, the Atlantic Undersea Testing and Evaluation Center. Sometimes it pops up in older files as ORTEC.
ORTEC, yes, and its location is just perfect for secrecy. It's on Andros Island in the Bahamas.
Which is key, right? Because it's not even officially part of the United States.
Precisely. It gives them layers of deniability. But the real key isn't just the island itself, it's the geography right next to it.
The tongue of the ocean.
That's it. This incredible deep water trench, it just plunges almost straight down to about 3,000 feet. Perfect for hiding submarines.
And apparently perfect for hiding other things too, or at least for them coming and going.
Well, that's what the reports say. Decades of them. Naval personnel stationed there, seeing many UFOs and underwater craft USOs entering and leaving the water.
And the speeds are just impossible by our standards.
Completely. Our best subs may be pushing, just under 40 miles an hour, something like that?
Yeah, around there. But these things, witnesses report them doing hundreds of miles an hour underwater.
It's not just faster, it's different physics entirely. It points straight back to that anti-gravity or electromagnetic propulsion Burchett mentioned.
So it's not just transit points. The sources get even more specific, don't they? About what's actually down there.
Oh, absolutely. This is where witness testimony gets really mind-blowing. We have accounts from people involved in what they call secret space programs.
Let's talk about JP, an Army insider, according to the source material.
Right. JP described this mission supposedly over 40 years ago, very secure transport. Black Hawk helicopter first.
Then transferred to a submarine. But not just any sub.
No, explicitly not a U.S. Navy vessel.
Yeah.
And everything about it screamed other. It had 10-foot high ceilings inside.
10 feet, suggesting a very tall crew.
That's the clear implication. And its capabilities were off the charts. High speed underwater, obviously, but also, JP claimed, it could travel out into space.
A transmedium craft, basically. And the crew matched the ceiling height.
They did. Described as tall, Nordic-looking beings, maybe 6'9", 6'10". Residents, not just operators.
And where did this non-human sub take him?
Deep into the tongue of the ocean. To what he could only describe as an underwater city that was under a giant dome.
The city, under a dome, underwater.
Yeah. He apparently struggled to compare it to anything human, eventually landing on Dubai, just for the sense of scale, modernity, this glittering infrastructure.
Wow. And was there anything specific inside this? Dubai-like underwater city?
There was. At the center, dominating the landscape, he reported seeing a massive white pyramid.
Okay, let me process this. A huge, advanced, non-human city covered by a dome with a giant pyramid right next to a top-secret U.S. Navy base in the Bermuda Triangle area.
If JP's account is accurate, yes. It's just, we're not just, potentially being visited. We might be sharing the planet with a civilization far older or more advanced, living right under our noses, or under our wave.
And it's not just one account, is it? That's what's really striking.
No, and that's crucial. What's fascinating here is the consistency over time. There's corroboration from a completely independent source.
The second witness.
Yes.
The one who was a child.
Yes, someone taken there, supposedly, as a 10-year-old boy back in 1979, part of some kind of contactee situation linked to these secret programs.
And his story aligns with JP's.
Remarkably so. Same location in the Bahamas. He even supposedly brought back a physical sample sand from the area, but more than that, he drew what he saw.
He drew it. What did the drawing show?
It showed 3 distinct underwater domes covering structures, which fits the idea of a larger complex, maybe like JP's city.
3 domes. Okay, so you have 2 independent accounts, separated by decades, describing multiple dome structures, maybe a city with non-human occupants, in the exact same hotspot where the Navy tests secret subs and USOs are constantly sighted.
It becomes very difficult to dismiss as coincidence or delusion when you see that kind of specific overlap. It places something extraordinary right next to our own classified operations.
So if these advanced entities and their cities are essentially untouchable by conventional means, you can't exactly intercept something doing hundreds of miles an hour underwater or what's left.
Control shifts, doesn't it? If you can't control the physical, you try to control the information, the intelligence, and maybe the minds involved.
Which leads us straight into part 2, the world of psychic intelligence. Government programs trying to level the playing field using the mind itself.
Exactly. Moving from the Navy's physical challenges to the intel community's more esoteric efforts. We know about Stargate, of course, the CIA program.
Remote viewing.
But our sources highlight another key program, run separately by the Office of Naval Intelligence, the ONI. They had their own remote viewing unit.
And things weren't exactly straightforward within that ONI program, were they? There was espionage.
High-stakes internal espionage, yes. Which really shows how valuable and how dangerous they considered this psychic tech to be. The focus here is on Ingo Swann.
One of the most famous remote viewers.
Absolutely. But according to these sources, he was also acting as a back-channel spy. His primary loyalty wasn't to the ONI or the U.S. government.
Wait, who is he spying for?
The Church of Scientology. He was apparently feeding detailed reports about the entire internal operation of the ONI remote viewing program directly back to Scientology leadership in the UK.
You're kidding. So a top government psychic asset was compromised. What kind of details was he leaking?
Everything. Methods, targets, personnel, capabilities, operational security, the works. It basically laid the program bare. It showed that even as the government developed these powerful tools, they couldn't necessarily control the people wielding them.
That's incredible. And it makes sense why they'd be so worried when you look at what some of these viewers, like Pat Price, could apparently do. His abilities were, well, reality bending.
Destabilizing is a good word for it. Take the CIA facility test.
Right, tell us about that. They gave him coordinates.
Just longitude and latitude for a top CIA security facility, a black box, basically. Price remote viewed it. But he didn't just describe the building.
He got inside. Mentally.
He described the contents of the second file inside a specific drawer of a specific file cabinet within that secure facility. The level of detail was verifiable, and it proved that physical security walls, safes, guards meant almost nothing against this capability.
Wow. So locked doors are irrelevant. What about tracking moving targets? Like, say, a nuclear submarine?
He did that too. He was tasked with tracking a Boomer-class Russian nuclear sub. Pinpointed its exact longitude and latitude minute by minute in real time.
That alone is staggering for intelligence purposes. But there was something else, wasn't there? A UFO connection.
Yes. While tracking the sub, Price also detected something else right there with it. A huge UFO hovering right over the top of the water, apparently monitoring the same nuclear asset.
So, confirmation again. Non-human craft taking a very keen interest in our nuclear capabilities. It keeps coming back to that.
It does. The military clearly perceived a link and maybe a threat. But Price's abilities went beyond just observation. The sources describe something far more active.
You mean the mind control experiment?
Mass mind control, potentially. He was taken to a facility, described as being in south-central Canada. He wore some kind of helmet, probably an amplifier or interface.
And did what?
And telepathically projected a message. A very specific, unusual instruction, telling people in the area to file their U.S. income tax forms using a particular out-of-the-way post office box in West Virginia.
A completely nonsensical instruction. What happened?
The reported result was an 85% compliance rate.
85%. People actually did it, based on a telepathic command.
That's what the source claims. 85%. Think about the implications. If you can implant specific instructions on that scale, with that success rate,
Free will basically goes out the window. You could destabilize the society overnight. No wonder they were worried about someone like Swan leaking the methods.
absolutely. It showed the potential wasn't just observation, it was weaponized consciousness. The ultimate tool, perhaps, but also the ultimate vulnerability if the operator isn't loyal, or if the tech falls into the wrong hands.
That fear, that instability, kind of leads us into this next bit, doesn't it? The time travel experiments, which sound almost quaint by comparison.
In a way, yes. It's described as an early-stage, almost artisanal approach, run by an engineer named Tim Taylor. We know about it mostly through remote viewing reports analyzing his project.
So not a massive government lab, but more like a garage project.
Pretty much. Operated out of a workshop using retro mechanics and jerry-rigged equipment. The core tech involves something called an anchor ring for chronal synchronization.
Keeping things stable in time.
Something like that. And get this. The key tuning instrument for this time-bending anchor ring was a repurposed torque wrench.
You're kidding, a torque wrench for time travel.
That's what the viewing reports described. It highlights how experimental, maybe even how intuitive, this early phase was. But the really critical part was the human element.
How so?
The machine was apparently highly sensitive to the operator's emotional state. Taylor had to approach it with a calm, steady energy.
Why? What happened if he didn't?
Sudden emotions cause resonance spikes. It could destabilize the whole process. Risk paradox, maybe worse.
Okay, but Taylor himself, the reports describe him as having a certain personality, right? Confident, impatient.
Exactly. Confident, impatient, believed in hands-on fixes, which made him prone to wanting to do more than just observe. He apparently felt the urge for larger insertions into the timeline, not just the mandated small tweaks or observations.
And trying for those larger interventions had consequences.
Big ones. Physically, it caused things like dizziness, nausea, and these weird object echoes like bits of the past visually bleeding into the present momentarily.
Wow. And psychologically.
There was a cost, too. The more emotionally involved he got or the longer he stayed, the stronger the pullback was upon return. A kind of temporal psychological hangover, maybe.
So managing the human operator was as important as managing the machine.
Absolutely crucial. They had strict protocols, the 3 notebook sync documenting everything meticulously beforehand, the rule about no emotional entanglement beyond a certain limit.
But the ultimate failsafe was another person.
Yes.
Yeah.
The apprentice assistant. Their job wasn't just technical monitoring, it was to watch Taylor's state, watch for paradox markers, and be ready to physically restrain Tim when he gets too bold.
Physically restrain the time traveler because his own emotions could break the experiment. That's incredible.
It really underscores the fragility and the danger, even in this seemingly low-tech setup. The human mind was the critical, volatile component.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, the sources suggest this garage setup might have been a precursor, a proof of concept.
That's the speculation, that it led to a more robust program later on. And interestingly, the location mentioned for that more advanced program.
Let me guess. The Bahamas.
The Bahamas. Possibly involving NASA, located somewhere that could leverage perhaps the unique environment near
the underwater domes and the USO highway in the tuck of the ocean.
It raises the question, did they need the specific energy signatures or temporal stability of that deep ocean high strangeness zone to make a more powerful time technology work? Did human psychic potential, non-human tech, and even temporal mechanics all converge in that same secret spot?
It's a chilling thought. Which brings us to the final and perhaps most explosive connection in this whole web. Part 3, the JFK assassination.
And specifically, a motive that goes way beyond the usual narratives about Cuba or the mafia.
This ties directly back to the highest levels of power and the biggest secrets. The claim here is that the real trigger for JFK's assassination was his push for nuclear disarmament, complete disarmament.
According to these sources, Kennedy was profoundly shaken. Totally traumatized is the phrase used by the Cuban Missile Crisis. He genuinely believed the world came within minutes of annihilation.
And that experience changed him, made him bypass the system.
Completely. He lost faith in the established structures, the CIA, the military, to prevent it from happening again, so he started a secret dialogue, back-channel letters, with Khrushchev.
Using Norman Cousins, the peace advocate, as a go-between. How many letters?
A total of 18 letters exchanged, completely outside official channels, and the topic was radical.
Not just arms control, but actual elimination.
Total elimination. Disassembly and destruction of all nuclear warheads, both sides. They even discussed bringing China into the deal, offering help with non-nuclear energy. Kennedy proposed a joint U.S.-Soviet space program to redirect the vast economies built around nuclear weapons.
That's world-changing. But how was this seen by the, let's call it the deep state, the powerful interests?
As treason. Plain and simple. Particularly by figures like Alan Dulles, representing powerful financial interests, the China lobby, institutions like Brown Brothers Harriman.
Why treason? What was their specific fear?
It was about geopolitical control and money. The nuclear arsenal wasn't just defense, it was the ultimate leverage, especially regarding Asia. They believed they needed the nuclear threat to quell China and maintain their financial dominance in the massive Asian market.
So Kennedy dismantling the nuclear arsenal threatened their entire long-term strategy for global economic and political power.
Exactly. It was an existential threat to their plans. But they might have tried to wait him out, politically, until something else happened, a final straw.
June 5th, 1963.
That's the date. Kennedy makes a demand. He wants a full briefing on UFO information, and he asks CIA Director John McConey for it.
Why McConey specifically?
Because McConey, having previously headed the Atomic Energy Commission, had access to the deepest secrets linking nuclear energy and, well, other advanced energy sources, UFO tech, basically.
And why did Kennedy want this UFO information? It wasn't just curiosity, was it?
No. According to the sources, his intent was absolutely stunning. He planned to give the UFO secrets the existence of non-human tech, maybe zero-point energy, to Khrushchev.
Give the biggest secret away. Why?
To seal the deal on disarmament. To prove beyond any doubt that the U.S. was serious about ending the Cold War, dropping the whole nationalistic competitive thing. It was the ultimate trust-building gesture.
Offering the UFO secret as proof of sincerity for peace.
But when Alan Dulles found out, when he realized Kennedy was willing to give away that secret, the one underpinning potential energy independence and advanced propulsion,
the secret they viewed as their ultimate leverage.
He knew Kennedy couldn't be stopped through normal means. Sharing that knowledge, especially for peaceful cooperation, was the ultimate act of treason in their eyes. And that's when Dulles reportedly greenlighted the S-Force.
The assassination team. Which wasn't created from scratch, right? It had roots.
Deep roots. Operation 40 Mongoose. A covert group originally put together by Nixon and Howard Hughes, allegedly funded with skimmed mafia money from Vegas and New Orleans, involving figures like Giancana and Trafficante.
So a pre-existing deniable operations team was repurposed for Dallas.
That's the claim. A professional hit team using a triangular fire setup. ZR Rifle was the codename, and the sources name the actual shooter who delivered the fatal shot from the grassy knoll.
David Morales.
Yeah.
The S-Force's crack shot.
Yes, which then raises the huge question, what about Oswald?
If Morales fired the kill shot, what was Oswald's role? He was clearly set up.
He was the designated patsy, but his initial role was slightly different, according to these sources. He wasn't CIA, he was ONI trained, part of Operation Redskin.
ONI again, Office of Naval Intelligence.
His job was to create a fake Marxist identity to infiltrate pro-Castro groups, specifically the Free Cuba group. The original plan for Dallas, apparently, was for Oswald to take a shot.
But to miss.
Yes. A deliberate, bungled assassination attempt. His shot was supposed to chip the curb, maybe hit the car, but not Kennedy.
Why? What was the goal of a bungled attempt?
To frame this Cuban operations guy for attempting to kill the president, which would then provide the perfect pretext for a full-scale U.S. invasion of Cuba, something the anti-Castro elements desperately wanted.
But the real hit team, Morales' team, succeeded. Oswald realized he was toast, part of a much bigger, deadlier plot.
And he tried to make a call, didn't he? From the jail. Tried to reach Nag's Head, supposedly the HQ for Operation Redskin.
Before he could spill the beans.
He was silenced by Jack Ruby, a mob associate with clear ties back to the same circles that funded the S-Force.
And the cover-up was cemented by who?
Alan Dulles. The very man who allegedly greenlit the hit was strategically placed on the Warren Commission.
How did he manage to sell the Lone Nut story even to someone like Chief Justice Earl Warren?
By invoking the ultimate fear, nuclear war. He allegedly lied to Warren, saying the real story that the Kennedys had authorized plots against Castro, if revealed, would force the U.S. into a retaliatory invasion of Cuba, risking World War III with the Soviets.
So the Lone Nut story wasn't just a cover-up, it was presented as the only alternative to nuclear Armageddon.
Precisely, a masterful manipulation that buried the truth about the deep state's motives tied to nuclear control, UFO secrecy, and geopolitical power for decades.
So wrapping this all up, we've traced a line from potential hidden underwater non-human cities near U.S. Navy bases.
Through government psychic programs wrestling with mind control and compromised agents, while detecting UFOs near nuclear assets.
For early time travel experiments where human emotion was the biggest variable.
Culminating in the claim that the JFK assassination was triggered by his attempt to trade UFO secrets for complete nuclear disarmament, an act deemed treasonous by powerful interests protecting their control over both.
It all seems to circle back to two core things. Who controls the nukes? And who controls the knowledge and the reality of advanced non-human technology.
That really seems to be the nexus. Control of nuclear power and containment of the UAP-USO phenomenon and the revolutionary energy and propulsion it represents. Sharing that knowledge, using it for peace. That seems to be the unforgivable sin in the eyes of this shadow structure.
Which brings us to that final unsettling thought tying back to the time travel experiment.
Right. Remember Tim Taylor's garage project? How his own emotions, impatience, confidence, getting too bold were the biggest risk factor requiring physical restraint.
Yeah, the human element being the weak link or the dangerous variable.
So consider this. If basic human emotions like greed, fear of losing power, impatience, if those were enough at the highest levels to allegedly authorize the assassination of a president who was pushing for peace and transparency,
what happens now?
what are the potential consequences now that these same or similar secretive groups potentially control both incredibly advanced psychic influencing technology and have proximity to or interaction with the non-human technology platforms, possibly even dabbling in temporal mechanics as suggested by the Bahamas connection?
If emotional instability in one guy in a garage could cause resonant spikes and object echoes,
what kind of cosmic cascade effects could emotional instability, bias, or impatience at the very top of the secrecy pyramid unleash upon our reality, given the power they now seemingly wield?
That is a deeply disturbing question to ponder. M5D UFO files, real-life mysteries discussed by those who dare to question. The truth is out there, and we seek it. Don't forget to like, share, and join the truth seekers only on M5D. Hashtag M5D UFO files, rate and review us. It helps other seekers find our content. Exploring the mysteries of the universe. M5D UFO files.
M5D UFO files. Unraveling the UFO files. Revelations that change everything.